Yes, welcome into SportsBit 2.0. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. It's Friday, big game breakdown, Midwest region, and we'll get to the early look at the Elite Eight games coming up on Saturday as well. We'll turn the shot clock on and play of the day before we get out of here. Nobody knows anything. The first ever Elite Eight with 3 teams seeded 9th or lower, and Syracuse can make it 4 tonight. 11 seeds are now 4-0 against 7 seeds in tournament history. Kentucky gets the gift where the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 all lose, and they still can't even get out of the region, Teddy, with essentially a home game in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, look, the dogs kept barking last night. You know, Loyola straight up win, Kansas State straight up win, Florida State straight up win. You know, you look at the tweet from David Warlock. You know, since the field expanded to 64 teams in 1985, a total of 2 number 9 seeds have advanced to the Elite Eight. Tonight, last night, that number doubled with Kansas State and Florida earning wins. To say nobody knows anything, I don't know that I agree with that. But to say that there were lots of live dogs and lots of misseeded teams in the NCAA tournament this year, I think that's safe to say right about now, Pauly.
No, nobody knows anything. A 16 beats a 1 by 20. Buffalo was up 26 on Arizona. The Ray Ratto tweet, next year's Selection Sunday show will be dominated by men in suits looking at each other for 2 hours and saying, I have no freaking idea. Over to you, Jeff. That's what it is right now with all these upsets and the fact that Chalk can't get there anymore. And we'll see if Syracuse can do it coming up. So that was last night in the tourney. How about the association? Oh, my God. This was a triple take when I looked at the screen and the scores. The Hornets led the Grizzlies by 55 points after the third quarter. They won by 61. No Dwight Howard. They're 8 games under 500. Lamb was plus 51. Kemba Walker was plus 47. The record, the Cavs in 1991 beat the Heat by 68.
And let's not forget what happened prior to tip-off last night, which was Memphis getting steamed in that ball game. Plus 10 down to plus 8. The word got out. Dwight Howard's not going to play. You know, he was suspended. He picked up his 16th technical foul of the season during his 30-30 effort on Wednesday. Second night of back-to-back. Charlotte's dead. No. It didn't matter. Grizzlies, not much of a game last night. As you look at the tweet here, the Hornets led by 55 after 3 quarters. That's the NBA. That ties the NBA single-game record in the shot clock era. Pretty ugly for the road team last night. No question. Bettors got this one about as wrong as they can get it.
All right, bad beat. The Jazz -8 against the Mavs, up 17 in the fourth quarter, up 14 with 3 minutes left. Mavs are tanking. The Cuban said it himself, the owner. They're not supposed to fight hard, and they got inside the number, lost by 7.
Oh, yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, here you're up 17 in the fourth. You're up 14 with 3 minutes left. All right? Dead teams aren't supposed to rally back with 3 minutes left. That's exactly what the Mavs did last night. End up winning by 7. Brutal. If you had Utah minus the 8, they were a right side. They did not, however, cash a winning bet.
Yes, players did well. They beat up the books last night. We like to see that. The under in the Kansas State game, that wasn't a sweat. How about the over in Michigan and Texas A&M? There you go. Michigan struggled the first 2 games from 3 bombs away. They had 14 threes and had 49 points with 3 minutes left until halftime. That was bet up from 134 to 136.5, 137 in some spots. There were some totals.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan got to 99 by themselves. That one, a clear right side winner, both for the Wolverines and for the over in that ball game. The markets certainly got the over part of that right. Mostly balanced action last night, which means the books did okay, the bettors did okay, but this is one most assuredly the markets ran with, that Michigan A&M over, and they cashed. Well, again, when Michigan gets to 99 by themselves, you're probably going to cash your over 136.5 ticket.
Sixers, 6.5 up to 8.5. And the Pelicans-Lakers total 228.5 to 231.5. That was a shootout, 128 to 125. Lakers open 4, close 2.5. Boom, right in the middle. Not good for the books.
Yeah, and of course we used Pelicans as the Lakers +3 as play of the day yesterday. Push for those of you who were able to get it. Unfortunately, it moved to 2.5 in a lot of places. And I mean, a baffling finale for that game. You know, Sixers, I mean, they led by 30 after 3 against the Magic. The over in the Pelicans-Lakers, no debate there. That game was, 73-71 at halftime. But
Yeah.
the side very much in doubt down the stretch. The Lakers up 4 with 3:30 left. They didn't score another
Up 11
point.
in the
Lonzo,
fourth.
yeah,
Up 11 in the fourth. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah. Lonzo Ball 2 of 15 from the floor last night. 1 of 12 from 3-point range. In the last 2 minutes of the game, New Orleans sagged off him. You take all the shots you want, Lonzo. Left him wide open for threes 3 different times in the last 2 minutes. Every one of them, brick, brick, brick. I'm not happy with Lonzo this morning. Cost me a bet yesterday. And that's certainly not a good result for the bookmakers.
Been horrendous. I mean, just daring him to shoot, and he couldn't make it. A round of applause for the Pelicans, too. Back-to-back wins on the triple header, and they played 5 games in 6 days and went 4-1. One more, Pistons, 12.5 down to 10.5. No CP3. And this went to overtime. How good are the Rockets? Harden didn't have it, couldn't make a shot. And they were 12 of 51 from 3. Won by, 6, or they won by 4 in overtime.
Sure. Again, not a good result for the books with all the money coming on Detroit. Plus 12.5 down to plus 10.5. Bettors won all of those wagers.
All right, very good. Up next, big game breakdown. Midwest region. Well, some favorites get the money tonight. We'll get to Syracuse and Duke coming up, and we'll look at the Elite 8 games. Will Loyola get to the Final Four? Straight ahead on SportsBit 2.0. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com, at RealSportsBit, and at Teddy_Covers on Twitter.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
Time for big game breakdown, and thanks to Intertop Sportsbook, 22 years online. Sign up, deposit, and win. Syracuse and Duke. Duke's 11 and 133 the total. The big story, the Syracuse defense and the zone. Frustrating teams, shutting them down, especially the three-point shot. Active zone, and the reason it's so successful, these guys have length. Big guys out there playing defense with Syracuse. One of the problems you have, though, is you cannot rebound out of a zone. And that gives Syracuse fits. These teams met last time they played. Duke won 60-44, and they were 2 of 18 from 3 because they could dump it down to the bigs down low, and they had a lot of success.
Sure. Lots to talk about in this game. Let's start with the Syracuse defense. Throughout the course of the NCAA Tournament, 3 games so far, their defense has been great. They've held teams to 0.89 points per possession and 25% three-point shooting. You look over the course of the ACC campaign, their defense was elite, but not this good. They allowed a little over a point per possession and 33.6% shooting, 8% better from three-point range over the course of the season. Why is there that gap there? Well, this is a unique zone, and the teams that face it every year are going to understand it better than teams that don't, especially when the other teams only get short prep time like they had for all 3 matchups against Syracuse last week. So, Syracuse, number 1 in the nation in average height. It's not necessarily because of the big guys inside, but it's because the guys in the perimeter are so tall. So the zone is really active, not passive. And you look at the defensive number, number 12 in the country in percentage of opposing possessions and in turnovers. Number 3 in the country in possessions of number of opposing possessions that end in block shots. Number 22 in steals. But as you mentioned, there's that weakness, that legitimate weakness on the defensive glass. And that's likely to be a problem against the Duke Blue Devils. You look at the graphic here, Syracuse number 240 in defensive rebounding percentage. For the Duke Blue Devils, well, they're number 1 in the country in snagging offensive rebounds.
How about that? Yes, you can throw it over. You can lob it over the zone to the big guys. You can beat them up on the offensive boards. It's a bad matchup on paper. Going back to the first meeting again, 60-44. Just 2 of 18 on threes. But look at the bigs, Carter and Bagley, 31 minutes apiece. Carter had 16 and 10. Bagley had 19 and 7. And plus, Coach K, they're familiar with each other, Boeheim and Coach K, and they've had, if they didn't, they knew he knows what it is to begin with. But with the game being on Friday, they had extra prep time too.
Sure. I mean, great quote from Coach Krzyzewski talking about how he learned the concepts of the zone that Duke has run so effectively over the course of the last month and a half. Quote, when you're with Tom Thibodeau and Mike D'Antoni and Nate McMillan and Monty Williams and all those guys and their assistants, you talk a lot of basketball. No different, Pauly, when me and you were hanging out with some guys, we always talk handicapping, So Jeff Capel, who is my associate head coach, and Mike Hopkins talked a lot about the zone and drills that you use, but also the mentality of coaching the zone. Boy, that Duke zone has been very, very effective. Now, Duke plays their zone very differently than Syracuse. They don't force a lot of turnovers. Number 268 in turnovers forced. That being said, they don't lead a lot of open shooters. Syracuse, well, they've had a problem making shots all year long and here in the postseason. Look at the numbers. Effective field goal percentage, number 325. That's out of 351 teams. 2-point, 3-point, both lower than 300. Those are ugly numbers for Syracuse if they fall behind in this one. And as you mentioned, first meeting, Duke shoots 2 of 18 from 3-point range. They still win. They still cover. I don't think that bodes well for the Dog tonight.
All right, game number 2, Clemson and Kansas. Kansas 5, 142.5 the total. Showdown when Kansas has the ball. They're number 5 on offense. Clemson is number 7 on defense. And how about that Clemson offense? Effective field goal percentage 85th, 3-point percentage 87th, 2-point percentage 104. What the hell happened against New Mexico State, right? They shot 55% for the game, and it was still tight late. Aggies were in that one. And then maybe it's like A&M. They're off probably the best game of the season. They held Auburn to 25% shooting, and they had a 40-point lead. That was in a 4-5 matchup.
Sure, that always worries me when you talk about a team coming off arguably their best game of the season and then going home and having time for everyone to tell them how great they are prior to the next week.
Yep.
When you look at that initial breakdown, let's get that graphic up one more time. The Kansas offense, number 5 in the country. The Clemson defense, number 7 in the country. That's a nice matchup. That's a fun matchup to think about. And it's all going to be half court here. Kansas doesn't turn the ball over with Devontae Graham. Clemson doesn't press. So we're going to see the epitome of the half court defense that's really effective against the half court offense that's really effective. A lot of times in this tournament, at least so far, we've seen the defense come up on the right end of that. Clemson doesn't have NBA talent. They don't really have NBA shooters. As you mentioned, the game against New Mexico State certainly stands out. The game against Auburn certainly stands out as teams where their offense played really well. The season-long numbers don't show that. Good quote here from Bill Self as well, talking about how healthy the Kansas Jayhawks are right now. That's a factor moving forward. Self, quote, "It's the healthiest, knock on wood, that we've been in a long time. We thought we caught a little bit of a bad break playing Thursday, Saturday, the first weekend, but it turned out to be a good break playing Friday, Sunday, this weekend. Doc," that means Udoka Azubuike, "is full speed. Now, his timing may not be great, but his health is good. If we take him out, it'll probably be because he picked up 2 silly fouls early, not because of any type of problems. We're excited to have him out there full speed."
77% field goal percentage, so they need him out there, and he played some big minutes against Seton Hall as well, although they were beat up on the boards because they got killed down low by the big guy with Seton Hall, who, what do you have, 24 and 23. He was terrific in that game. So Clemson is like 250th in tempo, too. So you don't want to run with Kansas as well. And I thought Seton Hall, a very good team. I don't know how they lost 12 games again, but Kansas was terrific in the second half on offense. And they're bombs away from 3, Teddy. You give them wide open threes, they're going to make it.
Yeah, but Kansas has a deficiency, and a legitimate deficiency when it comes to their rebounding numbers, even with Azubuike. Well, look at the graphic. Offensive rebound percentage, number 169. Defensive rebound percentage, number 235. As you mentioned, I cashed a ticket I did not deserve on Seton Hall, and a lot of it was because what they were able to do on the offensive glass. They were plus 12 on the boards against Kansas last Saturday. That's a concern here because Clemson's whole tournament, what do? Defense and rebounding. Look at the numbers. 0.85 points per possession allowed so far. 32% shooting allowed so far. A plus 15 edge on the boards so far. That's Clemson's recipe. That's their MO. If those stats look anything like that at the end of tonight's game, maybe Clemson pulls the upset. If not, they may come pretty darn close. This is a team that might get out skilled, Pauly. They're not likely to get out toughed.
Seton Hall held Delgado. Clemson doesn't have a Delgado. That could be a big reason why they beat him up on the boards in that last meeting. All right, Elite Eight Saturday, the early game. Loyola, Chicago against Kansas State. Look at this, pick 'em. 127 the total at William Hill. The Ramblers were 100-1 to win the region. You are cooking with Crisco if you bet that. Now that you're one win away from cashing the ticket, and it's a pick 'em. We love this Loyola team, even though we've bet against them a couple times. But I love to watch them at least play on offense. Moshe's a terrific coach. He did a great job against Nevada. Great offense, pump fakes, went small, started 13 of 13 in the second half, 11 of those on dunks or layups. It's a great story. Back-to-back 1-point wins. 3 wins by a combined 4 points. Sister Jean. Also, it's been a different hero. Ingram, Custer, and then Towns. They guard you, they don't foul, and they shoot the 3 well.
Yeah, I mean, the fundamentals have been there, and the fundamentals were there in all 3 of those tournament victories. Of course, as we record here, first thing Friday morning, we have the openers. I don't know yet what way the line is going to move in this contest, but you're 100% correct about Porter Moser. He figured it out against Nevada. That offense struggled early. They were really bothered by the Wolfpack length. So what did Moser do? He turned it inside out, used the smaller guys to drive past the bigger guys and get to the basket. You know, you look at the season numbers, and it shows it real clearly. For the season, 36% of their shots came from beyond the arc. Last night, they shot a bunch early, and then after that, very few, only 25% of their shots from three-point range. What'd they do? 24 of 39 on 2-point shot attempts. But, I mean, of all the shockers last night, I mean, we're going to talk about it when it comes to putting on the shot clock later. I was stunned by Kansas State winning straight up last night. I didn't think they were going to survive. 30 fouls against Kentucky. 3 different guys fouled out. Dean Wade was a non-factor. 4 points, 1 rebound. Didn't play in the second half. Didn't matter. They won the game straight up. Barry Brown, quote, I just see a lot of grit, a lot of guys that love each other. We play defense the right way and just play for each other. Our Bruce Weber team, 1 win away from the Final Four. Yeah, that's a pretty big shocker for me, Pauly. It really is.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Nobody knows. Again, we have 4 months of data and information and eyeball tests to go on, and you blow it up after Kansas State and Florida State get hot at the right time. And Florida State shouldn't be here because Xavier vomited on themselves. And here's Kansas State, who had as many turnovers as made shots against Maryland, Baltimore County. And that's a 1-point game late as well. You're right. 3 guys fouled out. Kentucky shoots 37 free throws. And they don't respect your opponent. It was 13-1 to start. That put Kentucky behind the 8 ball. Florida State and Michigan. Michigan 4.5, 143 the total. Rockman and the whole team firing against A&M. Wagner got it going early. They hit 14 threes, and again, bombs away that they had all those points early. This thing was like 26-point game, 28-point lead, whatever in the first half. Now, how do they respond after what happened with A&M blowing out Carolina? We were concerned about that. Well, now Michigan's got the same thing to deal with. They were aces against in their last game, and now they're taking on Florida State with nothing to lose. Florida State in the Elite Eight for the first time since 1993.
Sure. I mean, look. The Wolverines, 5 players in double digits last night, 14 of 24 from three-point range, 21 assists, only 7 turnovers. Really impressive offensive numbers. Guess what? Their defensive numbers were every bit as good. You know, they had 12 steals in the game, 10 from the starting lineup, finally let up a little bit late. But, you know, you talk about the quote from Muhammad Ali Abdur Rahman, quote, my shot went in early, and it gives you the confidence to take the next one. I think everyone had that confidence today. That being said, I'm with you on Florida State. You know, I haven't respected Loyola the appropriate amount. I haven't respected Florida State the appropriate amount. And the win last night, I mean, it's the ultimate 18 strong. Of course, it counts all the players and coaches, the 18 strong for the Seminoles, even though the rotation only goes, about 10, 11 deep. But Terrence Mann, the only guy to reach double digits last night. Look at the numbers. The starters versus the bench players. Bench players with more assists, more rebounds. Starters with a little bit more offense. But the bottom line is, this team has as much balance as anybody. Wonder if their depth gives the Wolverines a problem. Leonard Hamilton, quote, these guys are working hard. We worked hard all year. Not very many people think we had a chance to be where we are. Count me guilty, Leonard Hamilton. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And that being said, if I'm playing, I'm laying. I only want Michigan. I know I've been wrong about the Seminoles and undervalue them, but Michigan is the class in this matchup.
Yeah, well, you were a 3 seed last year. You got your ass kicked by Xavier. You always choke in this spot, and they finally make it. So good for them. Up next, we turn the shot clock on, and a play of the day. We'll look at a total coming up on SportsBit 2.0. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping up here on Friday on SportsBit. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at RealSportsBit and at Teddy_Covers. We tweet the full show and the individual game breakdowns by usually 11:30 Pacific, so check that out on Twitter. And we appreciate your comments and feedback as well. Like the new segment here, new feature, time to turn the shot clock on. Biggest surprise from Thursday night. I'll start. To me, it was the no-show by Gonzaga. Lost by 15. We're down 12 early. Rallied to take the lead in the first half, and then a big Florida State run gave them a 9-point lead at halftime, and then Gonzaga cut it down to 5, and then that was it. Never heard from again. And after what they did last year, going to the championship game and losing a tight one to Carolina, they played so well down the stretch. Very impressive on the West Coast. I can't believe, and what they did, how well Norvell was playing, and Hachimura, that they couldn't get any stops and struggled offensively against Florida State to get blown out, and Florida State Elite Eight for first time since 1993. They always underachieve. I was shocked with that result.
So, my biggest surprise from last night, and yeah, I actually got a clock on my computer now, so maybe I can do this in 30 seconds or less. We'll see. Yeah. But my biggest shocker is most assuredly Kansas State beating Kentucky. Remember, that wasn't a neutral site game, even though it was a neutral site venue. That was in Atlanta, Catlanta, with all of Coach Cal's guys. All the Wildcats do is win games there in March. Not this year. Big shocker for me. And a lot of it, yeah, was Kentucky playing poorly on the offensive end, but Kansas State's defense had a lot to do with that. That one, I'm not going to say it blew my mind, but it was without a doubt, in my opinion, the biggest shocker last night.
First half unders have been cashing a lot in this tournament, and 9 of the first 10 games went under first halves during the madness. Money time play of the day. How about a total? Back to Texas Tech and Purdue. Take it away, Teddy.
Sure. Texas Tech Purdue will go under 137.5 for tonight's contest. And look, here's the concept. Purdue. Yeah, they have 2 7-footers. One of them is an elite low post passer and not a great shot blocker. The other, not much of a low post passer and a really good shot blocker. I say that makes a big difference. Adding a rim protector and losing a strong low post passer equals Purdue under. Let's take the Boilermakers and the Red Raiders under 137.5 for our play of the day.
All right, very good. Another week in the books. Fun to be back. Next week, MLB season starts. Oh, my God. We'll do a 2-parter with Robbie Vino, preview the season that gets underway Thursday, and how about a little Champions League? We're getting down to it. We'll talk to Nigel Seeley as well in the future. Straight ahead. Hey, nothing. We don't slow down. The madness, right into the Masters, right into the NBA and NHL playoffs on SportsBit 2.0. Betting insight today on SBRPicks.com.